And welcome to another week with me on 21st Century Rocker Mom podcast with me, your host, Tanya Candler. We're back again for another week. This week, we're looking at not MTV Unplugged, we're looking at childhood unplugged on this episode of 21st Century Rocker Mom podcast, because do you remember the days before you were distracted? Of course you don't. You're distracted right now. Sitting here fucking listening to this or watching this fucking shit on YouTube. You're distracted. But you remember the days before, TikTok and social media and fidget spinners and Nintendo Power Gloves and zip drives and floppy disks and CDs. And do you remember when we used to go out and do stuff and to have fun? You remember what we did when we were kids? We really unplugged ourselves. I know at least I did. I was not a TV kid growing up. I know a lot of people that had television induced sort of childhoods. It did not end well. It did not turn out well. They did not turn out as well-rounded adults. Most of my childhood was spent outside, in the fresh air doing things. So, think back to a time and travel back in time to a time with me when you were not looking at your phone or distracted by an iPad or an iPod or, goodness knows what else, looking at screens everywhere, blue light. It's everywhere. You can't fall asleep. You got every fucking app you can find in the world, but you can't. You got Siri can do whatever the fuck you want, but she's not going to put you to sleep. You're staring at that shit all day long, and then you just can't unwind and unplug. And that's what we're talking about today. And we're talking about getting unplugged and being unplugged. And it's nice to unplug. I remember even pre-COVID, flying up to the cottage with the kids and stuff like that. And just kind of unplugging, even not using any social media for a few days, taking pictures and stuff like that, but really unplugging and just having a vacation and not having to do that stuff. And it was kind of nice, for a couple of days. It was really nice and quiet. So before we did these things, and we had TikTok, and like I said, these kids had fidget spinners. I don't even know what the fuck. I see them, but they look like they could hurt you. So I don't have them for my kids. They want a fidget spin. They can bake bread, or something, or bake something. If you want to do something with your hands, make something, you know what I mean? Make something out of nothing. Make a rocket ship out of a box, but you're not gonna have a fidget spinner. That's weird. I don't know. TikTok, the days before reels and making reels and, weird news and stuff to confuse your head, and conspiracy theories and conspiracy Reddit and Twitter and, all those things that can be comforts and they can be luxuries to us and they can be fun, but they can also turn out to be really toxic, and they can turn out to be toxic environments. And you've seen, probably the old adage before, never read the comments. Oh my God, don't read the comments. Or you'll see someone put Michael Jackson, eating popcorn at the movie theater or something like that. And, I'm just here for the comment section because it's going to be fucking terrible. And someone's going to get fucking dragged like crazy. It's going to happen. So, people can get really nasty. I mean, it's happened to me before in comment sections. I've just gotten fucking dragged, just fed to the wolves. It's not nice for anybody, but it depends. What you do with it. Do you give a shit? Inevitably, what is it going to do to you if people that you don't know, perfect strangers, are commenting stuff about you and throwing shit at you? Do you really care at the end of the day? Should you really care at the end of the day? My answer is no. Because at the end of the day, are these people your family, or the people you have to come home to or answer to, or the people that are counting on you, or the people that are looking up to you to be, to be proud of, and that are proud of you? No, they're not. So who gives a shit if they, someone says a few nasty words about you? Literally block it, delete it, forget about it, scroll on, move on with your life. There are better things to do. Before all those comment sections, they were, fun things to do. People made fun of each other too. People still make fun of each other. People are people are, like I say, can be a real virus. But like I say, before all this, I feel like there was fresh air. I feel like when it all started in the beginning, you know, before, in the beginning, in the age of time, what started everything, you know, everything in the beginning, there was just, you know, fresh air. We were outside, and there was Disney afternoons and, you know, cartoons and TV when, like, I came in for lunch. And then the only time we really watched television on the weekends was like Saturday morning cartoons, or like Disney at the movies, like Saturday night at the movies, like Disney. And it was like family night, and there'd be some Disney program on. But not a lot of like outside time. Spent a ton of time at like our family cottage growing up. That was like kind of between Grand Bend and like Bayfield, kind of like smack dab in the middle. So off of Highway 21 there, and grew up there like forever. I spent a lot of time outside there in the garden with my Oma. I mean, we grew up there. Like we grew a lot of red currants, like these red currants, these berries, and we made jam out of them. We grew all kinds of different things in the garden. We made soups out of different roots. We made horseradish, lots of fun kid stuff. But I mean, like seriously, it kept me busy. Put a hat on, some sunscreen. I took down some trees. Boy, what a guy that Gaston. But seriously, I went to the beach a lot with my mom. We went to the cottage like a ton. It was good. Like we went walking a lot after dinner. It was a lot of like bicycle riding and going, of course, to the Legend of the Bear, because it's home down there, my fucking fort, because the Legend of the Bear was at the cottage. The Legend of the Bear, if you've not heard episodes prior to this about the Legend of the Bear, it was this giant like aqueduct pipe. Like I'm talking fucking huge, like diameter wise, like as big as I can outstretch my arms and legs and kind of look like a big starfish. It was huge, bigger than that. And it was like to run off from farmers' fields, I guess. We didn't know this at the time. We thought it was the coolest place to hang out in all the cottage. So we'd go and we'd ride our bikes there to this dirt road, and we'd ditch them. We'd ditch our bikes, and we'd ditch them down there. And they didn't even have brakes like on the handlebars. They weren't even like bikes that had speeds. Like they weren't even like 18 speeds or anything like that. These were like hardcore dirt bikes that you like had to slam your feet on the brakes like backwards, and the dirt would fly everywhere. And if you're like some fucking kid, I felt bad for the last asshole who was riding behind you, because he was getting a mouthful of fucking gravel. You know he is. I'm not talking gravel. He's getting gravel in the face. Raped in the face with gravel. Or gravel. Whatever happens. Anyways, I feel bad for the kid riding behind you when you're riding the hardcore motherfucker bike, because you're riding that BMX and that kid behind you's getting like, he's getting left in the dust, literally. And all I did was ride around with boys on bikes, and I had a BMX because I didn't want to take the 10 speed out or the 18 speed out, because it was a bit dainty for like riding on country roads. So I took out the BMX and like ripped it up. I mean, I ripped up my knees a million fucking times. I remember one time, my dad like was teaching me how to like ride a bike like initially. And I was doing like pretty good. We took the training wheels off and I was confident, and helmet on, everything was good. I was wearing this whole jumper that was like this one piece thing, and it was rainbow striped. It was so cute, and it was, you know, had sleeves to about here, was long all the way down to the ankles. And something happened, and I hit the brakes so hard on my BMX. It was like a pink flamingo bike. It had a pink flamingo on it, and it was a BMX, and that's how I had the brakes. And I didn't stop in time, and I slammed on the brakes, and I don't know why, but I went flying over the fucking handlebars. And it was like on the street where I live, and I skinned the shit out of my knees, but all wearing this like jumpsuit jumper thing. This is my affinity for jumpsuits. Even then, I liked one piece things. Oh my God, I skinned the shit out of my knees. Oh my God, I went home to my mother. My dad took me home to my mom, and she cleaned me up. They both cleaned me up, like Savalon, which was like this yellow disinfectant, like liquid my Oma like would bring home from the hospital, because she was a nurse there. She'd bring it home from St. Joe's. And whenever they cleaned me up, with Savlon, and my mom, like, she liked the jumpsuit so much, she cut it off, the jumper, and she cut off the bloody parts and made it into shorts. And it was good because like summer was coming anyway. So I mean, anyways, I remember a million fun summers at the cottage and doing a lot of bike riding and lots of bonfires, lots of boom boxes and cassettes kind of under the stars. I had a few friends stay up with me at the cottage, like many times. I had one good girlfriend stay up like a lot, like one like best friend stay up like tons. Like every summer she'd kind of come up and we'd like put on our Empire Records like tape and we'd listen to it because it was so good. But then we'd always like be kind of pissed off that Renee Zellweger wasn't on the soundtrack to Empire Records because she was like fun with Coyote Shivers and doing Sugar High, and then they didn't include her voice and her vocal track in the actual soundtrack, which was horrible. But I mean, that starts off with the Gin Blossoms and it just goes from there. It's beautiful. I love it. Although the cottage did thwart a lot of, I'm like reading, scared the shit out of us. My mom had this thing about telling ghost stories. And I've told stories on podcasts about this before, how her and her friends would like, you know, dress up as like spirits and scare the shit out of me and my friends when we were having Halloween parties. And like my mom is like literally the queen of scaring people. She loves to do it. She loves to like fuck with you, like, and scare you with a ghost story. Like she takes great pride in knowing that she scared the fucking shit out of you and that you're gonna pee the bed tonight. She loves to tell you a story. Like she loves to tell a good ghost story. And I think I get a lot of not just ghost storytelling from both my parents. Both my parents love to tell stories and they love to teach in the form of telling stories and telling it in a story. And my mom would always tell us a story, about fucking Simon of the Corn. It's like, she tells the story about this fucking little kid named Simon of the Corn who lived in the cornfields because our cottages were not built up and it wasn't a big subdivision then. There were only a few cottages. Everybody knew everybody, was really safe back then, you know. But the crops that were around were corn, and my mom didn't want us going in a cornfield and getting lost. So instead of telling us that and being like, you know, don't go in a cornfield and get lost because you don't know where you're going to be and you'll be disoriented if you go in there and you won't be able to find your way out, she tells us Simon of the Corn about this little fucking person who like lives in the corn, who is like horrifying. So of course no one wants to go in the fucking corn. I certainly don't. And then she used to tell us this other story called Mary's Liver about this little kid who was supposed to go to the butcher shop, but it got like too late or something like that. His mom gave him money and he's riding his bike. He got distracted. So he goes past the graveyard, gets this lady who's a corpse's liver and brings it home and his mom fries it up and he eats a little bit. And then Mary comes like, where's my liver? And she used to scare the shit out of us listening to the story before bed. And then she'd be like, okay, like sweet dreams, guys. I'd just be like, yeah, good luck, lady. I'm not going to sleep tonight. I'm not going to sleep forever. Fuck. So after a lot of therapy and a lot of time with the Legend of the Bear, I'm okay. But like, honestly, scary stories to tell in the dark. Volume, my mom, oh my God, she tells the scariest stories. You want to hear a scary story? You listen to oh my God, you listen to Mariah. She will tell you. She'll tell you the whole story. Pariah. Ridiculous. So that was something up the cottage. I did a lot of fishing up at the cottage, whether I was with my dad or whether I was with my Uncle Stan, or if I was by myself, sometimes I was fishing. Like anytime I could, like even if I had a net, I was fishing. I loved fishing up at the cottage. Like my dad would take me down to Bayfield a lot of times to go fishing. We'd go bass fishing. I get bass. We get a ton of perch, tons of perch, like yellow perch. We'd pull them in from the shore like crazy. But I remember one particular time I was not so lucky with the fish on the hook, because usually I just use a fish hook and a bobber and a half a worm, and that would kind of be it. And that's all I need to use. But this time I wasn't so lucky. Like I was bringing home baskets and baskets of fish, but there was a fish market on the way home and my dad didn't want me, I don't think, to be like ashamed of myself or feel bad. So we stopped by the fish market and he got a whole bunch of fresh fish and put them on my little hook thing, just like I caught them. And we put some in my fish basket and we looked like I caught I caught the whole king's share of fish, and he didn't want me to feel shitty about it. And I didn't. It was great. And we brought them home, like, to the cottage. And my Oma, she, like, fried them up. And my mom was like, oh, you got so many fish. Like, she was pretty, like, excited. So we just kind of never talked too much about that. But yeah, that happened. And that made me love fish. I loved fish till the day I turned, vegan. I like vegan fish. My favorite thing, McDonald's, is filet of fish. Me and only a few people in this world like filet of fish from fucking McDonald's. Most people think it's disgusting. McDonald's, for me growing up, though, I will tell you, and a lot of kids will tell you this, McDonald's was a giant fucking McTreat. I didn't get McDonald's on the regular. Like, we weren't going through the drive-thru McDonald's all the time for whatever. Like, when they got McPizza, like, that was a huge deal. They had McFajitas. We got those. It was a big deal because, like, it was, like, new things on the McDonald's menu. People don't know what I'm talking about right now that are not in my age group. Like, McRib, when that came out. Oh, let's go get a McRib. They got a Brontosaurus burger when they did, like, the Flintstones, and it was Rock Donald's. But when I was a kid, going to McDonald's, and going to McDonald's Playland was, like, so magical. They had, oh my God, you wanted to go into the Hamburglar jail? Did you want to go into Constable Mac? Did you? I got stuck in Constable Mac, and I put a picture up on my Instagram so many times. I had a panic attack in Constable Mac because I couldn't get out, because I couldn't climb out the outside because he had those bars on his face. You don't want to climb out his mouth and, like, drop to the ground. And then the inside was like a small chimney of death and piss and fucking diapers and, like, boogers. Everything that you climbed up was covered in sweet and sour sauce, pumpable ketchup, or boogers. Everything. The merry-go-round was fun when some little fucker didn't push it to go too long on the green button, because you could stop it and start it. And some little kid was always stopping it and starting it. And there was mirrors on it. Crazy music was playing. There was no, padded floors then like they have in play centers for kids now. It was just that regular old crack your coconut old open tile. Just bang your head, It smelled like hash browns and urine. These are the memories of my childhood, people. Those little fry guys that you could bob up and down on were kind of fun. I remember they had a slide, like, on a cheeseburger's mouth. Like, you could slide down, like, his tongue. It was weird, now that I think about it. Like, it was probably weird, but it was fun. I remember having fun, but it was a huge treat to go get, like, on a Sunday morning, to go get hotcakes and sausage and hash browns and an orange juice. Go to McDonald's and play in the Playland. It was a huge treat. And so my parents have tons of pictures of us when we were little kids taking us to McDonald's for a treat once in a while. And you can see how, like, excited we are, because it didn't happen very often, because my parents knew that McDonald's was not a wholesome thing. That's why they tried to get, pancakes and sausage. And this is before they had apple slices, and tried to make it more balanced. My parents were a little bit more, like, crunchy and granola. And you know what? I don't think that I turned out any worse for that, because they didn't want me eating a lot of shit. Like, seriously, the worst, I think, cereal we had in our house, like sugar cereal, was like frosted mini wheats, or like the mini wheats, they had like a jam in the middle. They had like a blueberry or a strawberry jam, or like a bumbleberry, which was awesome, because like bumbleberry, when I was a kid, most people don't even know what bumbleberry is now. It was like raspberries, strawberries, apples, rhubarb, kind of every berry you had together, kind of mixed together. And whatever you had in the fruit basket. And it made bumbleberry, and you can have pie and stuff like that. And it was just amazing. That was like the craziest cereal that we had. I didn't have like Frosted Flakes. I got those at Girl Guide camp. We didn't have like Lucky Charms and stuff like that at home. My parents did not have those cereals. We didn't buy them. I didn't eat them, so I didn't crave them. But when I had them in friends' houses, I was high on cereal crack. High as fuck on sugar. Sugar fucking high. Speaking of sugar high. Now my mom, I'll tell you, when I was a kid, this was something fun we used to do too. And I don't know if you do this with your kids. And this is something fun you can kind of do now. There are safe ways to do this. Going on day trips. My mom was the absolute fucking queen of the day trip. She could take you anywhere, and she'd know the back way to get there, because she wouldn't want to take the regular way, because she'd be too scared of traffic, because she doesn't like to drive on the roads that get scary and dangerous and busy and stuff. She'd get the Shunpiker tour, map, and she'd find out all the cool little places to go, and she kind of mapped them out. And even if we were at the cottage, she'd find out places like to go there. So if we were home, like in London, she'd find out places to go there. We go for the day. So we go to St. Thomas for the day and find out something, about the elephant there. And she'd teach us something about that. We go to Port Stanley for the day. And we go to Mackey's, or we go for fish and chips. And then we go for a walk on the beach, or we go scavenger hunting for shells, or We go somewhere else. Like, as I got older, like when I was like 19 and I could drink, I could go to Quai de Vin, which was like a winery that I liked when I did drink alcohol. We'd go there for, for something to do. We'd go walk around, festivals and stuff like that. We'd go out of town, go kind of antiquing, poke our nose into fun kind of thrift shops. My mom, absolute queen of like day trips and stuff like that. Go up to Tobermory, kind of spend the night in, the hotel down there by the harbor or whatever, and come home, whatever, spend a couple days here and there. My mom was major, like, queen of day trips. So when I went on tour with the band, it was way different than having, day trips, because I was somewhere at an extended period of time. And that's something I did that kept me out of trouble too. Music kept me out of trouble. I will talk a little bit about that later. I will tell you what didn't keep me out of trouble, because this was the trouble of my youth. Do you remember bush bashes? Because I went to many a bush bash in B-Rock, Ontario. And I'm going to talk about Byron, because it's a suburb. It's down the street where you live. I have often walked down that street before, with a lot of alcohol beneath my feet before. And I've probably been also really fucking high walking down on the street where you live in Byron. Because seriously, I've been to a million Byron bangers. And I'll tell you, partying at the ski hill has its ups and its downs. At the summer in Byron, there's a ski hill. In the summer, it's widely unoccupied, or used to be rather, when I was in my wasted youth. We'd go up there and we'd have these bottles of homebrew beer from friends whose dad would make beer, and it was really strong. It was like 9% alcohol. It was ridiculous. Like, whew, it tasted like feet. But we drank it anyway. Or we drink homebrew wine, which wasn't like regular wine. It was like 14%. It was like 20%. It was like moonshine. It was crazy. I'm surprised we didn't go blind. Crying out Pete. But we're here. I fell down a lot of hills. I did a lot of sliding. But I remember one particular time at this bush bash. A bush bash is when you go, and I don't know if this is just a Canadian thing, but it is like we're a bunch of hockey loving, pancake, maple syrup pouring fucking beavers over here that love to party in the bush, because all these kids partying in the bush. It's not even like a sexy thing. It sounds like some kind of orgy. A bush bash is not that at all. It's a bunch of underage kids drinking out in the Canadian wilderness in a spot, usually where they think is covered and super hidden, whereas generally probably not, and has not bad access for like the police to come and bust it up. And one particular time we were drinking at the B-Rock in Bedrock in Byron, and oh my God, meet the Flintstones, the cops show up. But like where we can flee to freedom here is where we can go. We can go to the apple orchard and climb up the dwarf trees. And because the foliage was so full at that time, the cops can't get you up in the tree. If you climb up and you're real quiet and you cling to the tree and you're the shape of the tree. If you become the tree, the cops aren't going to get you. So you got to become the tree. You got to become one with the tree. So I did. So I avoided many a run-in with the police officers, and getting taken home drunk and underage to my mom. And, instead of versus like sleeping over at someone's house, sleeping over like there and like sleeping it off and then coming home and her being none the wiser. Because if I would have come home drunk, I lived with my mom when I was a teenager growing up, because my parents had gotten divorced by then. And largely I lived with my mom. So if I would have come home drunk, she would have fucking been, it would have been over. Like the Jack Daniels flu was not an acceptable thing to have in my house. I remember being young and spending a lot of time, especially being really young and spending a lot of time with like family, immediate family, like my Oma and my Opa and my Nana and my Pop and my Uncle Carl and my Uncle Mark and my Uncle Stan and like all my uncles, like my mom's brother, my dad's brothers, and a lot of my cousins and stuff like that, swimming a lot at my Nana and Pop's house. I remember going to my Auntie Mary's and my Uncle Tom's a lot. I remember going to lots of people's houses for Sunday dinners and stuff like that. Like, I find people don't do that anymore, not even just because of the pandemic. I find like values have kind of like gone out the window. People don't go to people's houses anymore for dinner. They don't, like go over to people's houses. Like their families don't mingle. People just kind of keep to themselves, which I think is really weird, because I did not grow up like that. It's such a strange, like off color topic for me. It's like, it makes me uncomfortable, like that people don't mingle anymore. You know what I mean? It's kind of a tragedy because you lose that part, and then you don't know how to interact with people anymore. And it's weird. Now, I asked some of you, what were some of your favorite memories growing up, and what were the things that you like to do, and what were the things you like to do for your childhood and unplugging yourself? What did you like to do? And some of you like to go to the cottage, and some of you like to go down to the pond like me and catch frogs and catch crayfish and, you know, play with ladyfingers and blow things up. I'm not going to mention any names. You know who you are, who wrote down there lighting off firecrackers. But, you know, I got friends saying, you know, kicking a soccer ball around and not knowing if they were particularly good or not. But I'm, you know, I'm saying, you know, but did you have a good time? Yeah, I had a really good time. You know, catch, and I remember playing like catch with my dad and batting with a ball, like a baseball bat. Taking a baseball bat, a catcher's mitt, and a softball or a baseball to the park, just whacking the shit of it, whack it out into, you know, center field. And I wasn't always the best batter. I always didn't hit the ball. But did I have a good time? Yes, I had a good time. And that was the fun part about being unplugged as a kid. It didn't matter what the hell I was doing. I was having a good time. Lots of people had backyard barbecues then. Like I say, a lot of the families in the neighborhood kind of got together, and, you know, some people would barbecue, and, you know, some other people would bring salads, and be like a potluck. We do that with all the families. Everybody kind of knew each other from school, or just like the neighborhood. We tune into that. I would kind of tune into the imagination station a lot of the times with my sister, and we'd make up games. And of course, as I got older, like I say, it was music and stuff like that. But as children, my sister and I had quite like a pediatric podcast, and I want to recreate this on one of my upcoming episodes. I want to rapid test that little shit and get her ass over here. And I want to stick a swab up her nose, and I want to get her on the podcast and recreate our pediatric podcast. I mean, I even had ads where I would do ads for my own restaurants that I was like making up like on paper, like drawing somewhere, like, eat at so-and-so's family restaurant. You're going to love it. I was even doing like voices and stuff then. Like, I was ridiculous, like absolutely ridiculous. If you heard the tapes, they're probably somewhere. My mother probably has them. Good Lord. Oh, our pediatric podcast would not be complete without commercials from my fake family restaurants. Ridiculous. And my chicken wing joints. Like, oh, come to my chicken wing joint. It's only 10 cents per chicken wing. Like, I sounded like Joe Exotic. Like, when I look back at it now, I sound like the fucking Tiger King trying to get rid of chicken wings. But we had a good time. But then, as I got older, like I say, I turned to music. I turned to listening to a lot of music. I listened to a ton of music. And I don't say that that's like unplugged necessarily, but I wasn't really watching anything. I wasn't watching music videos at the time. I did watch music videos, but where I really wanted to get into something, I was listening to music, or I was playing music, not just bass, like with Kitty and stuff like that, but I was playing a lot of piano. We had a piano in our house always growing up. So I played a lot of piano, tons, or I'd play it at my aunt and uncle's house. They had a piano in their house. My Nana and Pop had a piano at their house. So there was always somewhere to play piano. There was always someone to be musical with. My Uncle Mark, my dad's brother, he was like kind of raised by and born into like the theater lifestyle. He has always worked with a theater company, many theater companies, lots of acting groups, lots of commercials, things like that. So I got bit by the kind of acting and drama sort of bug, like really like early. So he was always available there at my Nana and Pop's for me to sing with. And he knew like show tunes from like every show you could think of, because he'd been in every show you could think of. So I remember a lot of like memories like that I could just get around a piano with a family member and sing. And it's fun because I can do that with my kids now. They'll get around my piano with me, or they'll get around a ukulele or a guitar, and they love to sing. And it's great because I feel like music makes you plug into things in other ways. Whereas you're unplugged in certain ways, you're plugged into certain things, and you're plugged into certain feelings, and you're plugged into certain emotions in your mind, and you're plugged into certain good places with music that you can't get plugged into. No one's ever going to say, oh, I remember my best day of TV. It was so awesome. Oh, you're never going to remember your best day of TV. Will you remember your best day of jamming with your friends? Yes. Will you remember your best day of like postering for your show that's coming up at your club, you know, like at your first show, like going out and putting out flyers for it, advertising for it. No, you won't forget those kinds of things. Will you ever forget your famous first day of fishing and the first thing that you caught? Will you forget those days? Probably not. You are not going to forget those days. Now, speaking of music, my dad had another thing and that we did to amuse ourselves. And again, it was how I got into voiceover. And I have to get Rob somewhere, wherever he is, to go and sneak out and get this for me because I got to unbottle this and figure it out. My dad used to do the most amazing impressions for me of the Ninja Turtles. We used to watch Ninja Turtles, like TMNT, like I'm talking like the cartoon, that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the heroes and a half shell, turtle power, and like the whole thing with Krang and everything and the Technodrome and everything. I had all of the action figures. I had all the different Ninja Turtles, and my dad would amuse me and my friends a lot of the time by making different sounds and making different voices of the Ninja Turtles. And he used to do everybody, and his best Ninja Turtle to do was Michelangelo. And he'd be like, oh, totally tubular, dude. Catch you on flip-flop, dude. See you later. And that's like one thing I miss so much about my dad was him being such a huge ham and totally doing this Ninja Turtle impression for me. And my friends used to come over to hear it far and wide to hear my dad do this Ninja Turtle impression. And he used to do it to Michelangelo. And my dad, I'll tell you, he had the nunchucks back then. And I remember knowing that they were illegal. We had to keep them in like our crawl space because he had nunchucks back then. He was like, don't you tell anybody about these. These are illegal, these nunchucks. Oh, and here it showed up from Iowa Beard Company, another solid ass beard company that I love. We love in this household. Rob loves it in this household. I love it. My children love this. They have got this one called Cowabunga. This is the beard butter. I'm going to give it a smell. Oh, you can check them out on Facebook at Iowa Beard Company. Iowa Beard Co. Oh my God. This is like amazing for a beard butter. The consistency is like awesome. I'm going to try some of my Hizzy hair. We got mango butter, shea butter, coconut oil, jojoba oil, aloe vera, grapeseed oil, argan oil, fragrance oil blend. I don't know what the flavor profile on this is. I smell pineapple in there. I don't smell so great anymore because of the smell blindness. I'm going to use some in my hair. But yeah, my dad used to do this Ninja Turtle thing. And look at this. Everything is always, look at this. And another personal note from Justin, as usual, from Iowa Beard Company. Always in the box. He's always got, Robert, thank you. Sorry for the delay. Rob ordered this one. Justin at the Iowa Beard Company. He always sends the nicest things in the box with Iowa Beard Company. We're going to, got the oil here, I think, too, from the Cowabunga line. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I can't believe it. I love Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles growing up. I love it now. Yeah, who can't not love Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Oh my God. I don't know what the flavor profile on this is because I'm going to say flavor profile because I want to eat it. It's like, look at how awesome this is with all the pizza on it. My dad would get a kick out of this. I hope you're watching down here, Dad, because this is amazing. What do we got here? First of all, look at the color on that. Now we've got a measured dropper. Oh my God. I smell like a little bit of like oregano oil. I smell pineapple already. Oh my God. I'm so excited for this. Oh my God. This is so nice. Like, it's so warm and so spicy, like for a beard oil. I'm going to put some in my hair. I'm going to smell amazing. It doesn't smell, I don't smell like a pizza or anything like that. Holy cowabunga. Radical dudes. This is amazing. Oh, another one out of the park by Justin and co and family at Iowa Beard Company. Another one. And there's something sitting here. What's this? What's this? Oh my God. And it's the beard balm too. We got the beard balm too. So seriously, you want to keep your beard in good shape. Ladies, you want to keep your hair in good shape. I'm telling you, you got to use some of this stuff from the beard balm. So I'm loving Iowa Beard Company lately. I'm loving their stuff. And I'm still a loyal hoe to my friend the Woolly Wizard over here in London, Ontario as well. I love these things. All these Ninja Turtle things make me think of martial arts and my love of martial arts that came from my dad. That was another thing that I did that was completely unplugged as a kid. Always did a lot of martial arts with my dad. And he grew up as like a 2nd-degree black belt. He was amazing in martial arts and jujitsu and especially kung fu. He was really into kung fu, and he studied Bruce Lee and Bruce Lee's teachings and a lot of his books and a lot of that stuff hanging around. We loved Bruce Lee movies. And I was talking to my uncle the other day, and he was talking about how they came out of like Enter the Dragon or Fist of Fury, and they were all, wah, wah, and, you know, kind of punching each other and boom, 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 you know, kind of what they were doing in the movie and emulating, you know, back then how they emulated karate moves. And it wasn't the most PC thing. Now I say PC, I think of my Paul Candler, but I think politically correct. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't right how it was portrayed then, but that's how a lot of martial arts movies were portrayed back then, and that's how a lot of Asian folks were portrayed then. And it wasn't, you know, right, but people came out of the theater, and my dad and his brothers were, you know, karate chopping each other here and there and using kung fu moves they'd seen, and they were obsessed with it. They wanted to just keep going. My dad did keep going. He eventually did weightlifting and powerlifting and things. And for a guy who was pretty svelte, I mean, he was a strong fucking dude, but I remember one weekend we had what I would like to call a boys' weekend. We had the best boys' weekend ever. My dad got snacks. He got beef jerky from this Mr. Campbell's variety store that we used to go to when I was a kid. They had this beef jerky. This back in the day when I used to eat meat. I used to get these little red packages of beef jerky, and they were the best. He got like 20 of them. And he got a ton of them, and he knew I loved them, and he got some potato chips and nacho chips and salsa. We made some crazy ass nachos with like tons of chopped up vegetables on them and fresh mushrooms and fresh peppers and fresh onions and tomatoes and ground beef and stuff and melted cheese again, probably chicken or something, sour cream. Sat at a bar, and we rented all the Bruce Lee movies that I wanted, and then we rented the best of the best. And I remember it was fucking crazy. My mom and my sister had gone up to the cottage or whatever, and we had elected to have a boys' weekend because before I was born and before they could tell like the sex of you, my Tanya name wasn't going to be Tanya. I was going to be Brandon. That's what I was going to be. So Brandon Lee, myself, and I and my dad watched all these martial art movies all weekend, and it was awesome because we just had like a weekend where we were just, you know, having fun and like sparring and stuff like that and having a good time with each other and like just chit-chatting and watching movies, you know, with Chuck Norris in them, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. It had, you know, I mean, of course, the late, great Bruce Lee in all the movies. And then watching the biopic Dragon, the Bruce Lee story with my dad, which was also an excellent biopic. If you like biopics and documentaries and films of that nature, but especially biopics, and you like Bruce Lee, that's a really fantastic one. And it's a little bit more true to life than some of the other stuff that I've seen. It's a little bit more well produced. The production design in it is stunning. The score musically, the musical score in it, the composition is fantastic. The acting and the actors that they chose for the movie, it's cast well. I will say that for sure. It's amazing. When I did get to pick a movie a lot of the times too, with my mom or my dad a lot of the times, because when I was a little kid, my dad owned a movie store. So when we did get time to pick a movie, I always like to pick a horror movie because I like to get the crap scared out of me. So I always like to pick the Creep Show or like the Crypt Keeper or the Creep Show 2 or something Stephen King-y, something like that had anthologies in it. The Cat's Eye, I loved Stephen King's like The Cat's Eye with Drew Barrymore in it. I love those kinds of movies. Those things scared the shit out of me. My dad would bring them home on Betamax tapes, because we had beta machines back then. But he also had, for the movie store, he also had the cardboard cut-ups and the standouts in the basement. There were stand-up cardboard cutouts of Maximum Overdrive with that scary green face. You know what, of Humphrey Bogart, like bogarting a cigarette, you know, don't bogart that joint, my friend. Pass it over to me. That term came from Humphrey Bogart. He used to bogart and hold on to a cigarette forever till it burned down to the heater and hurt his fingers. But I remember going down to the basement and being so fucking freaked out by these cardboard cutouts, you know, seemingly of these movies. And most of them were scary movies. So there are horror movies. But for my dad to bring them home for me at a young age and like sit with me and co-view them with me, the ones that were appropriate, not like something really scary. Like, I don't know what was scary back then. I know it's scary now, and I never let my fucking kids watch it, but oh my God, no. Sorry, kids, you're not allowed to watch this, that, or anything directed by Rob Zombie. Scary! And also, lately I found that his wife supports bad things. Not veganism, bad things, racist things. I had to get rid of that. It was part of a Facebook and Instagram cleanse that happened a while ago. Yikes. But that's not good. But speaking of movies, we watched Turning Red today. I love how much diabetes visibility is in that movie. It was a fantastic movie about being yourself and being okay and kind of telling others that it's going to be okay to be who you are and, kind of mind your business, my body, my choice, my panda, my choice in this case. It was fantastic. Done by a Canadian artist, obviously based out of Toronto, and the Canadian filmmaker who did it. And I was so impressed when they did Bow, which was a short film, a Canadian film as well, on Pixar and Disney, about this little dumpling boy and this mom who's feeling nostalgic because her little guy is leaving home and he's growing up and she just wants a little baby again. She doesn't want a little baby to leave home. So the same filmmaker made a full-length film, and it's based in Toronto, and it's called Turning Red. And we watched it today as family movie day because it was minus 17. I was like, yay, you guys want to go outside? And walked outside, walked back inside. I was like, hey, you want to have a family movie? Let's pop some popcorn and let's get some Jiffy Pop on and let's go for it. So we watched Turning Red. It was amazing. So, and I don't know how many parents have watched Turning Red with their kids, and if there's things you can do to plug in, watch a Disney movie or something with your kids. Do something a little bit more wholesome. If you're gonna plug in, watch a Disney movie or have a recipe playing in the background while you're music playing in the background. Sorry, not a recipe playing in the background, but music playing in the background while you're doing a recipe. Make some bread, make some banana bread, throw some cornbread together, make a loaf of bread. A bowl of bread's really easy to make, like a bowl of sourdough, or make cupcakes, something that your kids will enjoy. Decorate a gingerbread house. Get messy, get crazy. Use kinetic sand, use the textural things. Kids like to use things with their hands. It's getting warmer out. The water table is good. We, in a few weeks, less than a few weeks, are getting a puppy. So Willie Nelson will be coming home really soon. So these hands will be very busy. And I know the kids are really excited. And I know especially our eldest, he's really excited because of his diabetes. And he's been told by the doctors and stuff like that, that it really, petting a dog can bring your diabetic numbers down. His diabetic numbers are great, but this can also calm him down. So he's excited for his pup to come home and Willie Nelson to come home and all this stuff. It's a family dog. It's kind of a birthday present from Rob to me, because he kind of knew it was time to fill that missing void in my heart. Where that's another thing that I did a lot as a young child. I hung out with my dogs a lot. I grew up with dogs my whole life and animals my whole life. And it's been way too long since we've had the pitter patter of little paws in the house. I miss that companionship and, walking a dog every day, training a dog, being with a dog, having a dog be with you. This beard oil smells amazing. I'm also picking up hints of, I don't know what, coconut. I don't know what is in here. It's amazing. The flavor profile is good. I don't smell ham or anything like that, but it's so good. I love it. It's great. But like I say, I will tell you, no kid, like I say, is going to ever remember their best day of TV or the best day. They may remember you taking them to the movies, seeing a really good movie, but they're not going to remember their best day of television. They're going to remember their best day of hiking. They're going to remember their best day of tobogganing, fishing. I went tobogganing and fishing with my dad a lot as a kid. We went tobogganing with my Uncle Carl. My dad would take us out to the ponds when they'd freeze, till they were this deep, and we'd go, this deep, of ice, so we wouldn't go through it. So they'd take us out tobogganing to the ponds and stuff like that. We'd be bundled up and stuff like that. And those are the days that I remember. Those are the things that I remember. Going out and hiking in the woods at Westminster Ponds with my dad and my mom, or going out to the trails into where the indigenous land is, where there is an indigenous village and museum out in Delaware, just up one of the highways. You just go there. There's a museum of history and art there, as well as trails, and they will tell you there's a indigenous village there. They're almost like ruins that are there that are never touched, on land that is sacred and not touchable. But you can go there and learn a lot that you probably didn't know. And my dad took us there very young, as a very young child. For me, my dad was with National Geographic. It was very fascinated in Native American folklore is what they called it back then. I wouldn't call it that right now, but that's what they referred to it as in National Geographic. And he was very into survival and being outside and, making fire out of nothing and having a backpack with you. And I'm very like that as an adult. That kind of mushroomed onto me. I love survival. I love this show called Dual Survival with my barefoot friend, Cody Lundeen, and my other friend, Dave, my Army tactic friend, Dave. But I love Cody Lundeen for the barefooting. And of course, the early primitive, the indigenous medicines and the techniques of preservation and, biodiversity and kind of living off the land and doing those kinds of things. Those are the things that kind of kept me unplugged as a child, growing my own vegetables, chopping wood, the same kinds of things I do now, only bigger. You know what I mean? Only smaller as a kid. But that's what kept me unplugged as a kid. And what's going to keep me unplugged now is I'm going to go and I'm going to enjoy probably a veggie burger or something like that. You guys know where to find me every single week. You know that I'm here at the podcast most times. I'm at 21st Century Rocker Mom. Anywhere you can stream the podcast, you can pick wherever you want. Anywhere you're streaming a podcast, I'm probably there at 21st Century Rocker Mom. You can find me on Twitter at Tanya Candler, always bitching about politics or some bullshit asshole of the week. This week goes to Pierre Polivier. That rhymes. He's the asshole of the week. I saw him on a watchtower or some kind of magazine today saying he has risen. And it was actually paid for by the people that Pierre Polivier, if you don't know who he is, he's a guy who's running for the Progressive Conservatives. And he needs a mustache like this pretty soon because he's not a good one. I've seen his bookshelf and he thinks he wants to run this country. I think he wants to dictate. He's a scary one. He's another one that I like to make fun of a lot. You can find me on Twitter. I'll be making fun of Pierre there pretty long, probably to the next, as much as I'm making fun of Jordan Peterson every goddamn week. Clinical psychologist that believes in gay marriage, but doesn't believe in gay marriage unless it's traditional roles, but believes in gay conversion therapy. We're going to talk about that on another show. That is more to talk about, but you can see me bitching about that on Twitter at Tanya Candler. You can find me at Tanya Candler channel on YouTube. And always I'm witching and bitching and ditching on my YouTube channel. Yes. But also you can always find me making trouble at 21st Century Rocker Mom at my Instagram page, or you can find me on TikTok just being weird at the same handle, 21st Century Rocker Mom. I hope to hang out with y'all next week. I hope you have a wonderful week going into next week. It is the March break. I hope you're doing something fun. I hope you're keeping safe. I'm asking for a friend. And yeah, we'll talk next week. Be kind to each other. Be peaceful to each other. And if you can, help out with the Ukraine. What is going over there, going on over there, and what has been going on over there is ridiculous. I have relatives over there. You've probably seen my stories on Facebook. If there is any small way you can help out with the Ukraine whatsoever, I encourage you to do it. Because what's going on over there is really bad. It's actual war, and they've actually got freedom to fight for, and they're fighting with everything they got right now. So if you've got something in it for you to give, whether it's your time or spare clothes or hygiene products or, baby formula, the Ukrainian centers here, at least in my city, and probably in yours too, are collecting things to go straight to the Ukraine and these relief funds to help. If not, there are lots of places to donate online. I will include those in some of my stories this week. and with some incentives to donate. There are also B-Sides Candles in town. If you look at B-Sides Candles in town on their Instagram, she is got some pre-orders from some Ukrainian colored soaps, and they're on for a pre-order now. 100% of the profits and the proceeds are going to the Club of London and the Ukrainian Center of London, and they're going right to help Ukrainian people that are suffering in the Ukraine right now. And I have a lot of family over there right now in Kiev, and like I say, it's war as hell. If you can do anything to help, why don't you? Until then, peace. Pray for the Ukraine and send all your good vibes there. Send them all out, because that's what they need right now. They need war to stop. The world needs war to stop. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any sense to anyone I know. All I know is that it's bad. So peace be with you, be with every one of you this week, and for weeks to come. I will be with you next week. I love you. It was lovely to hang out with you. I'll see you again.